everybody. Welcome, Ellen. It's so good to have you. So excited to have you.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I thought we'd just start with
Yeah.
whatever you want to tell us about each of your series. Whatever you want to share is
Great.
great.
Well, I think a lot of people are familiar with the Cajun Country Mysteries. So what I'll tell you about that is it was inspired by a real life stay in the late 1990s. My husband and I we went down to New Orleans for Jazz Fest, and we also did a little exploring of Cajun country because I just love Cajun country, especially coastal. I always say that north of I-10, I'm kind of clueless, but Cajun, I've spent a lot of time, exploring coastal Cajun country. And because there's coastal and there's prairie Cajun and coastal Cajun, and it's actually reflected in the food because coastal Cajun is more seafood based and prairie Cajun is more meat based.
Yeah, well,
Because there's a lot of because there was cattle in that part of Louisiana. So anyway, we spent the night at Maidwood Plantation, and it was a no, the host wasn't there. So it was the people who worked there. And, it was like wine and cheese hour, and you're there with like 10 strangers. So it was straight out of like, Agatha Christie. And so that stayed with me. And years later, when I was decided I wanted to try to write a second mystery, because I wrote a first one that won a William F. Teague Malice Domestic Grant, but it didn't sell. I thought, oh, what a great setting, a B&B that, historic location that is now a B&B. So that is a little of the genesis of Cajun Country Mysteries. With my Catering Hall Mysteries, which I write under the name Maria Dorico, which is my late Nonna's maiden name. Here's the first book, Here Comes the Body, and here's the one that is, let's see, okay, I never figure out these things.
Perfect.
4 Parties and a Funeral. This is the 4th book, and if you look at the frame here, it's the New York City subway system.
Oh, that is cool.
Isn't that cool? Yeah. So I had this frame, and I was just sitting in a drawer, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so perfect for the series, which is very much inspired by my real life. My mother was born in Italy. She came over when she was 3. And I think I can't remember if I said this or not, but Maria Dorico is my nonna's maiden name. And the series is so inspired by my real life that my protagonist Mia lives where my nonna lived. Nonna lived downstairs, and Titi Rose, Uncle Henry, and the kids lived upstairs. So in my book, Mia Karina, who's the protagonist, she lives upstairs where my aunt and uncle and the family lived, and her grandmother Elisabetta, which is my mother's name, Betty. Her real name is Elisabetta, lives downstairs. And where Mia works, Bellevue Banquet Manor is based on the real. We had cousins by marriage who ran 2 catering halls in Astoria, Queens, and that is where one of them, which is the exact location where my husband and I had our New York reception when we got married. We got married out here in Los Angeles, where I moved. I'm originally from New York, but I moved here to write for television. And so we had our main wedding here, and then we had a New York reception for my giant half Jewish, half Italian family in Queens. And so that series is so personal. And there's a mob element, which actually is also very personal. Vintage Cookbook Mysteries, my newest series, and I'm going to have I will be launching another series in next year. I'll tell you a little about that later. But this is a Bayou Book Thief, and as the first book, and Wined and Died in New Orleans is the second that just came out. And I went, people wonder what like this New York and LA person is doing writing about Louisiana. I went to school at Tulane. I'm a Tulane alum. And our daughter just graduated from Loyola New Orleans. So I developed this really strong connection to the city when I was in school, and then just spent, the time after graduation. I have as many friends there as I do. I think I have more friends there than I have in LA at this point. And so, I have a very personal footprint in New Orleans. It's I just love it. It's like I'd live there if I could, but I think the humidity for some of my family is a bit of a deal breaker. I seem to be the only one who can handle it to the extent you need to, but even I sometimes wilt. It's pretty challenging, but I just totally love that city and feel very invested in it.
I
So,
always,
I forgot to say that that this new series is called the Vintage Cookbook Mysteries because it is inspired by my own hobby of collecting vintage cookbooks, and it includes recipes I'm not a cook at all. The fact I write culinary mysteries is hilarious, but it includes recipes I've adapted from books in my own collection. So
oh, that's cool. That's
yeah,
really neat.
so there's the little personal link to each of my series.
Yeah. I only have one more in the Cajun country, and I think a lot of people do this, but I know I'm guilty of it. I'm like, ooh, if I don't read it, it's like it didn't really end. Like I'm leaving, you know what I mean? and
Yes.
um and then but the catering hall series, I just recently read book 2. I'd read
Yeah.
book 1 quite a while ago and then just recently read book 2. And I love the mob element. I like how every time they kind of like there was a scene, not specifically because I don't want to give,
Yeah.
I mean, not that it would give too spoilery, but there was a scene where they were like, oh, this is maybe what happened. And like some of the mob people were sitting around, they're like, that's a great idea. And the main character's like, no, we don't do that anymore.
That was in Long, yeah, that's in Long Island Iced Tina.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was
Just like a,
inspired a little by the famous JFK the Lufthansa heist, which was I think they finally figured out was was organized by the mob. And it's, I mean, there's certain, being from New York. First of all, my Jewish grandfather was a low-level mobster, actually disappeared in 1933. So I have a
wow,
very personal connection. And
wow.
then there were certain, growing up in New York, I mean, there were certain businesses that it's almost impossible not to there to be some connective tissue. And one of those is linens, and linen service. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but like I remember there's a young guy who actually went to my high school, which is in the suburbs of New York. And one day he was bragging about, we all were doing, illegal underage drinking at a local bar. And he insisted on picking up the tab and was flashing, the fact that he owned a linen service and he was
Oh.
16. So, and so that's all I'll say. But so it's like real estate in New York. I mean, I'm not going to go into detail there, but at some point there is, there's just certain businesses that are just, you can't. It's almost unavoidable, even if it's like degrees of separation. Someone and somewhere on the line or in the line is going to be connected. But the other thing is they do have legitimate businesses. It's not everything, and some of them are fronts and some aren't. And I read, when I was reading the book, I did do some research and I read an interesting book, and I don't remember the writer, who was the son of mobsters and was trying to do and actually had legitimate businesses going. But the feds and the police were so convinced that that there was no way he could do that he gave up and just ended up going into the family business until he finally got out of it. So
Wow, so interesting.
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to hop into some of these comments because a lot of people want to say hello.
Hi, everyone.
I'm going to pop them up on the screen that we can see them. This is Anita says, good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited for this. Hi, Anita. It's good to see you.
Hi.
Cajun says, hi, everyone. Hi, Cajun.
Oh, that's so cute.
Dream says,
pretty.
Hi, Dream.
Hi, Dream.
Hey, Amy.
Oh, book addict. Yes. Hey.
Hey, Donna. It's good to see you. This is Storm. Storm has an amazing YouTube channel, and she is one of your biggest fans.
Storm, thank you. I'm like so incredibly grateful to anyone who reads me. I mean, at first, I kind of like when I first started segueing from television into mysteries, and people say, "Oh, I bought your book." I feel so like, "Oh, you spent money on me? Oh, how do I need to do something to thank you for it." And I do a lot of swag and whenever I can. And then I realized at one point when I did my taxes that my expenses exceeded my income. So I kind of had to back off a little bit, and get also but I am going to wait. I'll have to show. Wait, hold on a sec. Where is it? Where is that? Hold on a sec. I wanted to show you. Okay, hold on a sec here. So I mentioned that I'm going to be launching a new series. Okay.
Yes, you did.
Okay, so I'm speaking of swag, hold on a second. I think I exposed all the stuff I try to hide. I sit in front of. But here is the logo for the series I'll be launching next year. Wait, you can't see the bear. Hold on a sec. Wait, I'm sorry. This is a reveal. This is a logo reveal. Logo reveal.
Hotel mystery.
Golden Motel Mysteries. And it's actually set in California, in the southernmost foothill of the gold rush country. And
awesome.
also my character is a burned out sitcom writer. Where did that come from? What kind of magic did I use to draw that? And
that's so different from your regular life. How did you do it?
I have no connection at all to that. I wouldn't know anything about being a burned out sitcom writer, not a thing. But anyway, she and her best friend, who's a guy, go in and buy this motel that's at the foot of the southern gold rush country and shares a border with a national park called Yosemite. No, I call it majestic but it's really Yosemite. So that I'm excited. Awesome. I've been just writing the first draft of that, and it's pretty funny because the protagonist is in this little tiny town called Found Gold, and it's next to a town called Gold's Gone, because the miners just name things for what was. And this is like a comedy thing. Like originally I thought, Gold's Gone is even smaller than Found Gold, and I was like, no, it's funnier if Gold's Gone is bigger, because when people found gold, they left to spend it. But Gold's Gone, they didn't have a choice. So now that is like a thriving. There's actually a Columbia State Park. And this is how you draw from your own life. And then we can get back to the comments, is that when the very first trip I took to California, I had an aunt and uncle who moved from Brooklyn to Modesto because he was in the food business. And in 1975, they invited me out on my first trip on a plane alone. And I went to visit them. And my great aunt Molly took me to Columbia State Park, which is an extant, I think that's the word for it, a mining village that's been perfectly preserved. And so that stayed in my head. And now, God, almost 50 years later, I'm writing. I thought it's so cool in the book, the people in Gold's Gone are dressed in bonnets, and so it's like I had to be careful because we pitched it and sold it as Hacks meets Schitt's Creek. But as I'm writing it, it became like Hacks meets Schitt's Creek meets Westworld meets Day of the Locust. So I kind of had to pull back a little, on some of that, just because it was getting a little too snarky. But it's fun. It's really fun. So anyway, but I digress. The reason I got off on that tangent was going to track my mind thread. It was like feeling guilty for people, spending money on me, feeling like I need to thank them, creating a lot of swag, having to back off on swag. But then I figured I could make my own eyeglass and screen wipes if I got or design fabrics through spoonflower.com. This is like this is like an unsolicited ad for Spoonflower. So, and that's, and then I just realized, I made one for this upcoming series. So there we go. Now I'll stop.
That is so cool. I'm actually that series sounds so fun. And I love B&B and hotels, great. B&B's hotels. I love all of those for a cozy setting. I think they're perfect.
Well, it's so, here, it's a personal knowledge of the area. Very true to the area. Well, really my personal knowledge, comes from a couple of things, just a fascination and the fascination led to such a deep dive. In the mid 80s, even I have a priest put together a Cajun French and Cajun English and English, Cajun French, English, Cajun French dictionary. And I bought one back then, and now it's worth a fortune because it's so hard to come by. And I have a very good friend, Gaynell Bourgeois, and those of you who've read the series will know the name. And I talked about this in the Little Lagniappe chapter at the end of the first book, how, when I met Gaynell, she was a tour guide at Ashland Belle Helene, which was a plantation that was that was basically mostly abandoned. And the family was fighting over what to do with it because it was one member of the family, Bill Hayward. There's something in New Orleans and Louisiana called forced inheritance, because they have the Napoleonic Code still is the dominant legal way to, legal path in Louisiana. And so if one person was objecting, they couldn't sell the property. So he was trying to run it as a tourist, as bringing in visitors. And Gaynell was a tour guide there. So I met her. We just really hit it off. And Gaynell is 100% Cajun. And then we kind of lost touch. And then when the same trip where Jer and I were there and we stayed at Maywood, we were driving around. I was showing him these places on River Road, and we stopped at Homa's house. And I just said, we stopped in the gift shop, and I said, I had a friend who used to work at Ashland up the road. And I said, do you know Gaynell Bourgeois? And the woman said, no, she works here. And she got on the walkie-talkie and she paged her, and Gaynell comes running down in her, her costume that she's wearing, holding up her hoop skirt. And we reconnected, and we've been, really close friends ever since. And, she's older. She's in her mid 80s now. But she's such a wonderful person. And when I was writing the first book, I said, I'm going to name a character after you, because she's this amazingly, I guess they call them autodidactic people who teach themselves different skills. Like, she's a wonderful artist. She taught herself music. She wrote her own memoir. I said, I'm going to name a character after you. I'm going to give you a choice. You can be the Grand Mère, or you can be the 19-year-old musician. And she was like, oh, I'll be the 19-year-old. So
when you said that, I just finished the Cajun Festival one.
Yes. Fatal Cajun Festival. Yeah. So, and because of my interest in stuff, like when I wrote, Remembering the Bayou Boneyard, well, that was inspired because after doing the Louisiana Book Festival one day, I decided I was going to do the Creole morning tour at St. Joseph Plantation. And so I learned so much about, the Creole morning customs. I was so interested that I thought I have to write a Halloween one and incorporate them. So, and in fact, my the blog post I wrote for Chicks in the Case, the blog I belong to, I sent it to them, and it's now up on their website, the St. Joseph website, under testimonials. They have a link to the website. To the post.
I think it's so interesting, the history that you do bring in, because you reminded me when you talked about the Halloween one, the Christmas one. I didn't realize all the custom with the bonfires and just I really enjoy those cultural references and those things that you add into.
Well, you know what? I was trying at all. When I was writing this series, I was trying to think, why do I have this fascination with the Cajun culture? And to me, it's like, and I connected it, the way I connected it to my own life is that, my mom being Italian, we had relatives coming over, up through the mid and late 60s. And so it was a culture within a culture. Like, I would go to a family function and not hear English, and one thing that's so incredible about the Cajun culture is, how it is a culture within a culture. It goes, the Cajuns, before America was America, they were here. And the same with the German coast. They were even here sooner than that. In the 1714 to 18, I think, is when they were coming over. That's a whole other story that I won't go into. But it's like they have their own language, which they, tried to wipe out at one point, but somehow it survived. And you still will hear people speaking. If you go to Cajun country, we've been in restaurants in a small town, and they're speaking French. They're not speaking English as they're together. Their own language, food, music. And so this culture within a culture, I think, ties into my my fascination and interest in it. I think ties into my personal history.
I bet. Nia said, I love the Cajun Country series.
Oh, thank you, Storm.
Yeah, this was behind, so that's why.
I
was so sad when the Cajun Country ended, but I really love how it.
I was sad too, but the publisher, it was the timing of it, and I think I'm still looking at ways to keep Pelican alive, and I've pitched a couple, and they haven't gone over. But down the road, I will be revisiting Pelican in some way or another. And even if it's some of the, right now I'm looking at, we're some of the people are living in New Orleans, but there's still a connection to Pelican. I mean, so I'm looking at different ways to do it. And I have a proposal for a different take on a series set there,
That's awesome. I keep saying I'm going to, like, I want to start a series that's like where are they now, and have like authors talk about like, where's Maggie 10 years from now? Like, what is she doing? What's going on? Like, for series that have ended, because there's so many series that have ended that I didn't want to end. And I really do, like, what are they doing?
Well,
where
Storm points out that I ended it like, we know where Maggie was 20 years from when it ended. But the thing is, if I go, some of the things I'm thinking about, I have to, like, everyone would have to forget like the 20 years in the, it would have to be more in the present. So people would have to forget about that last chapter.
Hi, Jennifer. It's good to see you. Hey, everyone. Good to see you. It says hello.
Hi.
Oh, I can't wait for the new
series.
Oh,
thank you.
So I agree.
I hope people like it.
I can't wait.
It's a little edgier, I think, it's just in some of the writing, because, she, in the first book, I mean, the second, because there is an LA element, like there's an agent who has a second home, up there, and his wife and baby basically live there, but he's a very LA agent, and, he's basically there on the weekends, but, so I tie into that. So, and then my protagonist, Dee, has to come to Los Angeles to investigate, because the first victim is someone she knew from the a sitcom world. So, it does get a little.
Love it.
But it's very inside.
Sounds
so I think people will find it. Thank you.
Yeah, the new series sounds so cute.
Yeah.
Oh, I know I'm going to love the last book. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm like, ooh. Oh, the dictionary must be great.
It is. It's cool. So it's really, I had no idea it would be like so, but it is. It's amazing that he did that. Yeah, and like I said, I have to brush part of my hair. It's making me a little crazy. That's better. And the fact he did that is so critical, because they did try to wipe out the language. Oh, thank you, Susan.
She says, hello, everyone. Just finished reading Bayou Book Thief and looking forward to reading the other in series. I know.
Oh, great. Well, I think I hope you'll enjoy. One thing I love about this book, if you look at the cover, I decided when my husband and I were staying in Carrollton, a sad part of New Orleans, during one of our visits, like one day I looked out on the street, there's a peacock wandering down the street. And, I thought, well, it's a garden district. How cool if there were peacocks. And, they're nasty animals. They're gorgeous, but they're nasty. And so so I put in I added peacocks to the series. And then I love how the cover designer found a way to incorporate in this book, in both books they're on there, but you see in Bayou Book Thief, it's much more obvious. Because they're just such beautiful, the males are such beautiful animals, but I just love how she got it in. Okay, got it in here in that clever way.
And I really love the cover on the second one. I love the colors of it that blend together. It's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Made me laugh so hard. I called my dad and told him.
Oh, that's great.
There's as his next book.
I was like, how can there not be a bakery named that in Louisiana? I looked it up, and there may be now. But, it's like, I swear to God, I'd open a bakery there just so I could use that name, even though I know nothing about baked goods, baking, except what I like to do as a hobby.
That is so cool.
I should license that.
You should. Danielle says, hello, everyone. So
hi.
I will.
What a pretty thumbnail.
I know, her profile is gorgeous. So when you write a series, do you read a lot of cozies? Do you feel like you would be a sleuth? Or because like me, I never ever figure out who the killer is. I try. My only hope is to suspect everybody, including the main character, until they can prove to me otherwise, because then I'm bound to get it right at some point. That's it.
You know what? I didn't read a lot. I think I've read everything. I think I've read almost everything Agatha Christie ever wrote. And I'd read it like by the time I was when I was a teenager is when I discovered her. And so I think I read cozies without realizing I was reading them. Yeah. But the thing about Agatha Christie is she's much more acidic than people realize. They think she's like, oh, la la, but she's got an edge to her. I remember my favorite, she described this person as having eyes the color of boiled gooseberries. And I thought that's such like a great description. I didn't even know what a gooseberry is, but I knew it was not a good thing to have eyes that look like if they were boiled. And then since I've been reading them, I do read a number, mostly because I'm reading my friends. I mean, I want to try to my best to keep up with my friends. And I have so many, people I know now reading them, and I'm asked to blurb. But I also read a lot out of my, I've read every Louise Penny, Jacqueline. I love historical mysteries. That's like my favorite category. So I read a ton of them. And I'm one of those people who does not, I want to be surprised. I don't want to figure it out. And I just read a book where halfway through, I knew exactly who did it and how, I said, oh, she's going to be, it's like, and I was like, and I was completely right. And so that's like a kind of disappointment. But I was staying with my mom. Still lives in New York area, and she's 96. And she's in great shape, thank God. She has some some ailments, but mentally. And so she watches, a lot of PBS and the Sunday night, mysteries. And we'd be watching these movies, and I'd be, oh, this is going to happen. And this is going to happen. And she's like, stop it. And then she's like, how do you know that? I'm like, I only know it because I write so much. And I think the TV ones are much easier to see because they're working with less time if they're doing like one episode or two episodes. So those are easy. But I don't want to be confused, but I'm always like, oh, I didn't see that coming. And that's what I try to do with my books. And then I always I don't do it all the time, but my goal is always to have like a secondary mystery. So, and it doesn't even have to be a murder. It can just be something that's going on in the lives of these people, but they're trying to figure out and solve, so that even if someone guesses who, figures out who the culprit was, maybe they didn't figure out the solution to, to the secondary mystery.
Yeah. Do you completely outline, or are you a painter?
Yes.
Or
I am an outliner, and that comes from my TV days. When I wrote plays, which is how I started writing, I was much more of a pantser. Like I literally did the thing where, when a character appeared at the act break, and I was like, oh, and wow, I didn't know he was going to show up, and he ran with the whole second act of the play. Completely switched the focus. But in my writing these books, I think because I just, I've realized I'm a visual learner, and I need to see how it all lays out. And also, when you're writing for TV and film, outline being paid, you can't move on to script until your outline is approved. So I think that like got drummed into me through, 25 years of doing it. And, but I call it a fluid outline because, it changes, and I discover stuff that I didn't expect when you're going from an outline to a draft. And here comes the body. Oh, where's that? Well, I put that away. I don't know where. Oh, here it is. This was the first book in the series. Well, guess what? When I wrote the outline, Terry Fuoco, the nosy reporter, wasn't in the outline. And I got halfway through the first draft, and I thought Mia needs an adversary, but not like a fun adversary. So I created this character, Terry, who then became so much fun to write. I mean, I have to say, in 4 parties and a funeral, at one point, they go, a reality show is shooting now in Astoria, the Dons of Ditmars Boulevard. And so, all the aspiring Dons and Donettes, I call them, want to be in this, and they get cast. And then the producer is this, a scrupulous woman. And so at one point they go to New Orleans for a bachelorette party that's going to be filmed, that's going to be filmed for the show. And I wrote Terry, and I had so much fun writing a scene where Terry she's there, and she's going to be like Mia's roommate. And Mia's like, why are you here? It's like, oh, and Terry's like, it's just fun. And I think for me that, like a lot of these, I think, because I've done so much TV that they play out as like movies or TV shows in my head. Like the Cajun countries, and I think it played more like a movie. And here, the Catering Hall plays very much like a TV show, like a single camera half-hour sitcom. And the Bayou book, the vintage cookbooks are somewhere in the middle. It's like a little of both, So, but I really had fun with that. I think it's, I always feel funny saying, "Oh, it's funny," but it is funny. It's funny.
Yeah.
So
I like to call people who are fluid outliners saggy pantsers. Yeah, that's how I like to.
that's funny. Well, I was, I think I forgot which book it was. I realized I put on Twitter. I said, I'm pantsing an outline. Does that make me an outliner or a pantser? So
So, are any of your characters, I know you've talked about like names and stuff, and you talked about the character, the music character in your Cajun country. Are any of your other characters based upon people specifically? And you can just like blink if you don't want to say out loud. Have you ever like had a character that you killed that was somewhat based upon a real person?
yes. But I'll tell you 2 stories about that. First, in 1999, I was on hiatus, and I thought, I'm going to try to write a mystery. And there was a writer we had worked with who I say we, because in most of my TV credits, not all of them, but most were with a writing partner. There's a writer we worked with who had, we found out had backstabbed us. And I was so angry, I made him a jerk and a victim. And what I wrote in the first, and then we're reading them, out loud. People are reading stuff out loud in class. And I was like, oh, I was the one professional writer in the class. And then everyone's was better than mine. So I ended up not even, I read a little of it. And I was like, then I was so embarrassed. I thought, well, I can't write mysteries. And I didn't try again for 12 years. And, and so that was a case where someone literally, inspired a victim. Then there was, I read about a really obnoxious billionaire businessman. And I was so appalled by some of his behavior that I made him a victim. And so it's not someone I knew, but he just inspired. And I think that was an Cajun Christmas killing, this really horrible businessman, this unscrupulous businessman. And that was just inspired by someone that I read about. It wasn't even, someone I knew. In terms of my other characters, a lot of them, there's a little of everyone, in them. Like Elisabetta, the nonna, is, in Catering Hall, in the Catering Hall series, is a combination of my mother and my actual nonna. And it's funny because Mia in that series is probably the one who's most, she's living my real life in so many ways, but she's the character who, when I envision her, is the least like me. It's like she's a combination of kind of Leah Remini and a friend of mine, younger Leah Remini, and then a friend of mine in New York. She's, just much more like that, which is interesting because it's the one closest to my real life, but the character is the one most I envision myself less.
That's interesting because I always ask people, if Hallmark called you, who would you have in your brain as playing your main characters in your series?
Well,
it's important for people to know, because just in case they call,
and now I'm kind of changing a little bit. Like I had said, Leah Remini, she's a little older than the character, but that never matters because it's really the personality, and it's really, age isn't so essential to some of these books. But then also Aubrey Plaza has that kind of attitude. And there's an actress, Caitlin Olsen, I just think she's on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. She also plays Jean Smart's daughter on Hacks. And she's just really a really good actress and funny. So, she could do a New York accent, but you need someone who's got a little bit of a spitfire for that series. I mean, for the Cajun countries, I always kind of saw Anne Hathaway a little bit. Wow. I see her a little for Bayou Book Thief too, but also like Valerie Bertinelli has that wonderful kind of, even you wouldn't necessarily think, because I keep talking about how she's a 28-year-old widow, but that doesn't matter. She has the charm and the personality and that slight vulnerability that I think Ricky has. And then, and I can also see actually Aubrey Plaza as Maggie too. is the more like the sharper edge of Maggie, in the Cajun country mysteries. So
that would be
yeah,
that would
she's
be
because she's a little she's a little edgier than she's an artist, and she's feels a little fish out of water. So Anne Hathaway is almost a little too vulnerable. So that kind of, and I'm always interested if other people have ideas who they would see. Let me know.
yeah. I always have some people in mind, but Valerie Bertinelli, I think, would actually be. I mean, like you said, there is an age difference.
It
But
doesn't matter. I would totally
just,
rewrite it for her.
well,
So
yeah, I could see that because I really enjoy her.
yeah,
I think that would be actually
but that's between
amazing.
us.
Of course,
That
of
doesn't leave our
course.
little group here.
Sue said, "I would love it if your books." I know, I
So would
know.
I.
Me
Well, I
too.
don't know quite what I guess they are picking up. They had a change of regime, which is that happens all the time out here. It's that is that when that happens, things change in terms of what their goals are, and I think they had like backed off from doing the mysteries, but I think they've been picking it up again. So, we'll see what happens with that.
I think at one point I thought that Natalie Portman would be good for
Oh yeah,
Vicky.
she
I
would
don't
be. She'd be
know, but
great.
it was like something in my head at one point. I'm
Well,
like,
she would be actually great for Maggie because again, Ricky is a little she's a little more self-effacing, although Maggie is a little bit of more of a slightly more of an edge to her, I think. Ricky is like kind of self-effacing. She's just that's why, someone who's got that kind of warmth. She's very warm, so I think you need an actress who's very warm to play
yeah,
her.
yeah. Nina says, I agree about turning it into a Hallmark movie. I know, Hallmark, if you're watching, just saying. Melmac, hey Melmac, she says, hi Ellen, hi Stephanie, hi everyone. Ellen,
Hey!
I love
Oh,
your book.
thank you. Thank
I'm
you so
halfway
much.
through the Cajun
Thank
Country
you.
series. Love it. And I love, love, love the Vintage
Oh,
series. That is so awesome.
that's so
That's
much
so
fun.
awesome. I don't know actors
Ah.
enough to pick someone. Oh, well, yeah, especially like newer actors today. Like
Yes.
in the grocery store, I don't feel like I'm out of touch until I go to the grocery store and I see the magazine covers and I'm like, I don't know a single person on here except like, Betty
Well,
White.
the other thing about, the vintage cookbooks is that it could also, skew in more by diverse casting. Like I could see, and that's true of all. It's not true of the catering halls. That's an Italian family. You can't get around that. But there's the thing that's so fascinating about Louisiana, especially South Louisiana, which I'm much more familiar with, is the blend of cultures. And you could have a diverse casting. You could have a Black actress, a Hispanic actress,
Yeah.
play either Ricky or even Maggie. Because that is absolutely, there's such a blend. I have a friend in New Orleans who identifies as Black. She's actually lives in Cajun country. But she says, I'm Black, I'm African, I'm French, I'm Spanish, she just will list this melting pot of cultures. So I'm very open to that too, because I think it works for the region. I mean, Cajun is a little harder because that's very specific, but Cajun is often mixed with Creole. And so, and Creole, who's to say one of Ricky's descendants wasn't, of that ethnicity.
Yeah.
Not Ricky. Yes, Ricky for sure, because she's adopted.
That's
But
what I
Maggie, even though she's a Cajun country mystery, there's a lot of mixing of cultures and of ethnicities.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, yeah, the Ricky, because now she was born in Louisiana and was adopted. Where'd she grow up? It wasn't Louisiana.
LA. When
LA.
she was, I forgot if I made her 7 or 8. Her mom, and this again is like using my own person, the world I know, I've come to know in Los Angeles is like, that her mom was a nurse. She was a NICU nurse who adopted her. Which was inspired by a story I read online, a woman adopting a baby who was abandoned in NICU, and that inspired it. And then And then, there's a lot of filming in New Orleans and Louisiana. And so she met a man who was in town, and he's Hispanic, and they married and they moved to Los Angeles. So Ricky was she was 7 or 8, she moved to Los Angeles, and as that's was 20 years earlier. And so now, but she always felt like a connection to New Orleans, and maybe that's where her heart and her life lay, which is why she's now relocated.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so many good people to play those parts, actually.
Oh,
Bayou Book Thief was one of my top 2 favorite series
oh,
debuts
thank
for
you.
2022. I hope the series goes on for a long time. That is awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. That's fabulous. What was the other one? I want to know what the other one was.
I think I know, but I'm going to let Melmac answer.
Okay, Melmac, tell us.
Tell us. So if you, knock on wood, I'm not going to knock because sometimes when I knock, I set the dog off.
That's funny.
If you were to have something happen to you, let's just, knock on wood verbally. What investigator would you want to solve your crime? Like from a book, from a TV show, anybody? Who would you want to avenge your death?
I'm a big fan of Miss Marple. I just love how she uses her. I just love how she's so much smarter than everyone gives her credit for. And this fluffy knitting and I'm a hobbyist. I do I gave up on knitting because nothing fit, except scarves. I have several scarves. But I needlepoint a lot, and I just love the idea of. I just love what I think is so special about it is her understanding of human nature and her dark view of it. And I just love that, so I would absolutely assign and feel great confidence that Jane Marple could solve my murder. And I hate to be like, be so kind of like standard or, oh yeah, the typical, but hey, it's classic.
Absolutely. And that is one of the reasons I'm a huge fan of elderly characters. And I think one of the reasons why is because they're always kind of overlooked, or they're like, oh, they won't have the means to figure it out. A lot of the people think that when they're being questioned, they're like, oh, it's just some old lady asking questions. Yeah. And they don't think they're going to, you know what I mean? And I love that about.
Well, I'll tell you something interesting about that I actually created a proposal for a spinoff of the Cajun Country Mysteries that featured Grand Mère as the sleuth.
Now that would be awesome.
Unfortunately, it did not sell.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Wouldn't it be awesome? Because I think she's like a Cajun, an upscale Cajun, lineage Miss Marple. But the feeling was, the response was, oh, she works better as a secondary character, which I don't agree with.
Either.
I don't agree with. I think, she would be a delight. But I actually have a short story in mind where she is she's the figure something out. And so at some point I want to write that short story, and I'd either submit it to a collection or just write it for myself and maybe give it to my newsletter subscribers.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Sue said that is so fun to hear the origin of Ricky. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how these things come to you. Someone just one of my readers commented on a post I wrote for Chicks on the Case, and I don't want to. It was like she said, she told this like interesting story from her own life going on right now, just a small thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, that would be great plot for the. So I like told her it would be great plot. I just made a note of it and put it aside.
That is awesome. Okay, well, if you ever want to take this note, this is the I say this all the time. This is the cozy I feel like is missing from the world theme wise. Are you ready?
Ready.
An amusement park cozy or a traveling carnival. There's so many ways you could kill people. You're always moving to new cities, so it can't be like like a Cabot Cove where people are like, that's not. It's perfect. I'm telling you, that's what
I think. I have to say that a traveling carnival. I have to tell you something interesting. There's a book called Nightmare Alley, and I discovered it there was a movie version with Tyrone Power that I saw like 40 years ago, and I was obsessed because it was so dark and it really very noir. And I tracked down the original book. I have a first edition of the book, and it's, you know, it's a traveling carnival, and Bradley Cooper just 2 years ago or so did a remake of it.
Ooh.
And and then I saw a musical version of it out here at the Geffen Playhouse. And I think the carnival angle is a little dark. It's hard. And I actually had my wallet stolen by carnival people when I was working at a summer camp. So I don't think I could do a good service to that. The idea of amusement park is very much fun. I'm surprised someone hasn't done that already. I was once having dinner with some other mystery writers. They weren't cozy writers, so we all got a little drunk, and we were, you know, and our publisher was there. We just got drunk. We were pitching like a taxidermy series. So we're saying, what hasn't been done as a cozy series? And we said taxidermy. I think someone actually has done it now. But the amusement park is like a really fun idea.
Yeah. Telling you.
Yeah.
Telling you. Someone needs to do it. I say out, someone needs to do it. My other 2022 favorite cozy series was A Doomful of Sugar by
Oh,
Catherine
okay. Thanks. Okay.
And yes, it was what I thought, Melmac. Exactly.
Now I want maple syrup. Now I want to go have some maple syrup when I'm done.
Oh, that series is so fantastic.
Grade B. Great. If you like maple syrup, you must have grade B. You know, you don't want grade A maple syrup. You always want grade B, because that's the rich, thick, you know, stuff. That's just,
yeah.
See, you walk away from this and you have a maple syrup tip that you did not expect to have.
Columbo would be amazing, because I also like his Just One More Thing.
Yes, I know. He would be amazing.
And he said, I would want Jessica Fletcher. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Jessica Fletcher either. I agree.
Yes, I know.
Sleuth. Yes.
Now, Cajun Peach, where are you from? What part? You know, you must be originally Cajun if that's your either that you love the culture like I do. I'm just curious.
Melmac said Death on a Tilt-A-Whirl. See? Thank you, Melmac. Exactly. Just saying. Amusement park cozy all the way.
Okay, I'll think about it. I actually was, thought about doing a series where it involved traveling, but the thing that from my experience it was like a film crew, people who worked on films and shot in different locations. So, down the road, keeping it in the bank. It's in the vault.
Cajun said,
"Oh, Thibodeau, sure."
I'm so glad you said that, because I would have butchered that name. So
glad you
said that.
Thibodeau.
I don't know what I would have said. I don't even want to say what I would have said, but it wouldn't have been that one.
The Funhouse Murder. Okay, now everyone's like pitching on this. That's hilarious. The Funhouse Murder. Murder with Mirrors. Oh, you live in Georgia now. Okay.
Cajun Peach. That's a perfect combination.
Yes. Oh, there you go. Yes. Now I get it. Cajun Peach. That's perfect. Thibodeau. Yes, I've been to Thibodeau.
So before we wrap up, what series and stuff do you have to expect? And then if you want to tell people, like you mention your blog again, or how to sign up for your newsletter, those sort of things.
Yes. So coming out, I actually on March 28th, 4 parties and a funeral launches. Oops, sorry. It's hard. And it's really,
it's hard.
I swear, if you just want a pure funny series, the catering halls are just, it's like reading a sitcom mystery. They're just really fun. And of course, Wind and Die just came out, about a month ago. The second new one. Then upcoming, after this, I won't have a release. In June of 2024, the 5th and final catering hall will come out, and that is going to be titled The Witless Protection Program.
That is awesome.
And I have to tell you something I did in that book that I'm like really proud of, that I realized that you can go, my characters at one point to investigate, go from New York to Miami, Miami to Los Angeles, and Los Angeles to New York in 24 hours. And that can be done.
Wow.
Think about it. Think of the time change. Think of the time difference. That is absolutely doable to do it in 24 hours. And if it's not, someone will tell me I got it wrong. And then I'll hear about it.
I'm sure.
And then in August of 2024, my first Golden Motel mystery will debut, A Very Woodsy Murder.
Very woodsy.
It's fun, and there's a lot of my life as a sitcom writer is I don't want to say wedged in, but is tapped into. She does come down to Los Angeles, and there's, a lot of it is, but it's up there. So it's all the things, I think people love. It's a small town. It's, it's got the town next door where everyone's dressed like they're out of Little House on the Prairie, but some of them are really horrible people. So that's and so it's got a lot of stuff going on in it. And then, and I don't know about the vintage cookbooks. I don't know. So I'm working on right now, making sure. I really always want to have a book in the Louisiana space because I feel so connected to that. So whether it's revisiting it, whether it's New Orleans, whether it's revisiting, Cajun country, so I'm working on that right now, making sure that keeps going. And so I blog at chicksonthecase.com, which is a wonderful blog, and people, it features 8 of us authors who are just I don't want to forget anyone. So it's me, Lisa Q. Matthews, Vicky Fee, Kathy Valenti, Leslie Karst, Jennifer J. Chow, Becky Clark, and Cynthia Kuhn. That's the 8 of us. And then I'm also a member of the Cozy Mystery Crew, the Facebook group, which is really fun. It's a dozen cozy writers. And again, some wonderful writers. It's really, if you like cozies, it's a great collection of writers. And then you can sign up for my newsletter at ellenbyron.com. And I try to make it fun to read, and not just a sales. Like I always have I've started doing this on a personal note at the end. It's something for my own life. And then I feel like I've kind of developed a relationship with my subscribers. So my last newsletter, actually the main focus was a tribute to my late dog our late dog who we had to cross over the Rainbow Bridge in January. And it's the first time in 24 years we don't have a dog. And it's like a friend sent me a little stuffed animal. So I've been a little stuffed Chihuahua. So I sleep with that sometimes at night. I'm a geriatric person sleeping with a stuffed animal.
That is so hard though, man. That is so hard.
We're going to adopt again, but like I'm going to be the Toastmaster at Left Coast Crime. I leave on Tuesday, and then Malice Domestic, and all you readers, if you haven't gotten to one of these mystery conventions, and you can do it because they're just so much fun, and you get to really, Left Coast has this wonderful thing called Author Reader Connections, where you can do like small connections with just people sign up for these. So I'm part of 3 of those, 1 on my own, and 2 with others. And so, if you can get to them because you'll really have fun.
I'm thinking about, so I'm going to Malice.
Oh, great.
And normally we do a live on Sundays. But
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. But I'm thinking maybe I might do just an hour live on Saturday when nothing's going on, just in the lobby, and whoever wants to pop in and say hello to everybody live.
That's fantastic.
Really just like I said, 45 minutes to an hour, because I know there's going to be so many great authors there.
Oh, have you looked at the list? I think the authors outnumber the non-authors at this point.
Yeah,
because everyone is so hungry to. We did it last year. Last year, I had 4 vaccines, and I still caught COVID at Malice.
I know. We got that email because and I was like, oh my gosh, yeah.
And it's like, hey, I was prepared, and I was, protected. So it was mild. But then I came home and gave it to my husband.
Oh no. But so, and I will also, once it an hour after this goes up, I'll be able to edit the description, and I'm going to add in all of your links. It'll let me.
Great. Okay.
So that they can click on it from there. We have a few more comments. And
I was going to say, do we have some more questions?
Sharon said, hi ladies, I'm at the library picking up books I have no business checking out considering the size of my TBR. Feel you. But since I'm here, I shall now head to the Ellen Byron show. Perfect.
Yay. I hope my books are there. And if they're not, you can get an intra-library loan or interlibrary loan. Yeah. Oh, I just saw I have my little bear in the background. Hold on a sec. Oh, thank you, Sue. Wait, hold on a sec. I have to show you one last thing. Hold on. Oh, you can see what's behind me now. So, hold on a sec. I wanted to do something special for the launch of the new series. So I had 36 of these made that I'm going to give out as special giveaways.
Those are adorable.
Because there's a bear in there's a bear, lurking in the background of the book. And I, like I said, this book's a little edgy. His name is Toki the bear because he was named by some guys who were doing an illegal grow operation that was, of course, busted. I mean, that's not in the book. It's just the backstory to why Toki the bear, who's Toki the bear. So, so we hear about Toki, and then a couple of times we see him, he peeks into the action, and that's it. So I just, I'm going to give these, I only could do 36, but there'll be like a little here's his little logo he's wearing. There'll be a little special giveaway.
Yeah, that's awesome. I agree. The Catering Hall series is hilarious.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thanks, Melmac.
To the new series. I know. Yeah. Oh, so hard.
My baby. Yeah, he is. He's a little angel. It's really hard.
So many. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. It's yeah. Oh, thank you. I know. Yeah. It's just, and I'm such a dog person. They're my support. Every dog has been my support animal. That's why I'm now like, I've got, when I feel like I can't sleep, it's like suddenly like, oh, my little stuffed animal. Yeah. like I'm 5. Thank you all for taking the time to be here. That's, so great. And to Tiffany, thank you so much for even thinking of having me. It's really, you have no idea. I hope readers understand, how grateful authors are. In fact, when I won my first Agatha, one thing I said is like, I'd meet all these people and they go, oh, I'm just a reader. I'm like, no, just about it. Cut that word out. You're not, own it. Like, I am a reader, because without you, our books are just files on our computer, and I'm a reader. I'm a huge reader. That's why I write, because I love to read.
Yeah. And
I have a tiny scar on my forehead from where I was in my 20s. I wasn't even like, I can't even say I was like young. I was reading a book as I was walking in the Greenwich Village in New York. I was coming out of rehearsal and I walked into a tree. So I have this little tiny scar on my forehead from where I walked into a tree because I was reading as I was walking.
I think most readers can relate to that at some point, because I mean, like, I take a book wherever I go, so it's usually,
and that horrible feeling of like, I don't have a book. What am I going to do to myself? What am I going to do to myself?
I think that
Thanks.
the cozy mystery authors, and I'm sure it's like this in every genre, I just mostly read cozies. Mm-hmm. They, by and large, have been so like, of course I'll do an interview. I'm like, really? Yeah. Like, it's just so we appreciate that, because we as readers love to ask questions and find out about the characters.
That's great.
And, it's so fun. It's amazing. We really appreciate it. This has been fun. Thanks. Yes.
Thank you for hanging out with me. So
yeah, people absolutely.
Oh, he is cute. I know. I love him. I love that I got a bear that has little paw prints. Yeah. And his face and his little expression is like, hi there.
Oh, adorable. Thank you for taking the time. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. The bear is adorable.
I know. And of course, bears are like hugely, I've seen them in, we have friends who have a house up in Tahoe Donner, and a bear path runs next to it. And they're actually terrifying in person because they're big. You do not want to run into them. So I don't want to in any way, enable people to think they can go up and pet a bear, but it's not going to happen.
That's what I always think about moose. Like like the giganticness of the moose, but when you know what I mean? Like,
can I tell a really quick moose story?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to tell a very quick moose story. So a couple of years ago, I said my mom is 96, and at this point she was like in her earlier 90s. But I show up to visit her. She lives in Austin, New York. I show up. She runs out of the house and says to me, "I saw a moose." I'm like, "Oh, here it goes." I'm like, Mom, you live in Austin, New York. You did not see a moose. I'm telling you, Ellen, I saw a moose. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like and I'm like really like, oh no, what do we do? It's starting. Where's it going to go from here? So I see on the internet, like a week later or a few days, I don't remember what it was. All of a sudden there was a moose in Westchester County. And it was like on the news. And I found the clip. Someone took a picture of the moose. And my poor mother, who I was like, stop it, Mom, you didn't see a moose. No, don't, this can't be happening. She saw a moose. She literally saw a moose.
Funny. In New York.
Yeah, I mean,
who would just believe that to begin with. And
Yeah. And then
I mean,
what happened is the moose was sadly met its fate on the Taconic Turnpike or Taconic Parkway or something. I'm like, but yeah, luckily she's in good shape and she did actually see a moose.
oh, talk about looking out your window and not expecting something.
Yeah.
I mean, like, wow.
Yes.
Melmac said, thank you, Ellen.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Jennifer said, thank you.
And so now do I leave? I'm not sure. Should I just leave? Oh, thank you, Sharon. Should I leave the studio or there's always that awkward goodbye on
Yeah,
these.
no, I'm just
Okay.
making sure there's no more questions.
Okay.
Oh, Sharon said she checked out plantation
Yay!
letters. Yeah.
Thank you.
I missed my stop for work on the train more than once. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. One of my favorites. Because she was so engrossed in Mr.
That's
Train
so
Stop.
funny,
That's
yeah.
hilarious. Your mother was avenged.
She was vindicated.
Funny. There was a coyote in Queens, New York the other day. That's wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like Hearts and Whodunits. It's a great.
Thank you again
for
coming on. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you at Malice.
Yay, yes.
And everybody go check out all the books. And I will put up those links. Like I said, an hour from now, I'll be able to edit and I'll put up all those links that you mentioned.
Great. Thanks so much. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
This is so fun. Bye.
Bye, everyone.